to climb the 7 summits of all of the continents on this planet, including Mount Everest. Cason brain.
I feel like I want some of his coffee not diluted right now.
Yeah, an Explorer cold brew sounds absolutely great right now. It's been a day.
It's good to have JB Men's here. I think last time I saw you was Pride of the Caribbean. You were wearing a lot less clothing then.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wait, I want to hear that story.
Today I'm all dressed up.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about that in the show.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 7 p.m. Thursday, March 18, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
The world's first live daily queer evening news show, Out of the Closet and Into the Headlines on Q News Tonight.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens, you'll see it.
This evening, we bring you the news of perspective and representing the LGBTQ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and let's welcome anchor David Hopkins. He is well known here in LGBTQ South Florida as an officer for Lambda Men's Brotherhood, a nonprofit organization focused on building a legacy of gay philanthropy with the mission to identify and help fund critical needs in our community. Through social and fundraising events, they have raised and donated over $175,000 in grants to local and national nonprofit organizations that serve vital needs in our community. He is also the host of Happening Out Television Network's travel news show, happeningout.travel. Welcome, David.
Welcome, and if you want to find out more, go to lmbftl.org. We welcome donations, and make sure to watch us on happeningout.travel.
And next, let's welcome anchor JB Menz. He has worked in the LGBTQ+ sector for his entire professional life. Currently, he serves as editor-at-large at WeMeg's Hotspots magazine, as the community co-chair of the MSM Advisory Group for Broward County Department of Health. And he is, by the way, the current reigning Mr. Stonewall. He's currently working to establish a nonprofit that focuses on the underserved Black LGBTQ+ community of South Florida called FAM, forming a movement. Good evening, JB.
Good evening, all.
Well, tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, March 18. We begin by queering up the Equality Act. Democrats have a chance to pass the Equality Act, but out Senator Kyrsten Sinema could screw it all up. Traditionally, Americans hate Congress, yet approval of Congress is now at a 12-year high. That's a modest 35%, by the way, because Congress is actually doing something. Voters are encouraged by the passage of the $1.9 trillion economic stimulus package. The legislative branch is actually apparently legislating. But unless the Senate changes its bizarre filibuster rules, Congress won't be doing anything else anytime soon, including passing the Equality Act. The passage of the stimulus package relied on an obscure rule that allows the Senate to pass budgetary issues without the threat of a filibuster. But virtually no other legislation, including voters' rights protections and the Equality Act, qualifies for that exemption.
Under Senate rules, 60 senators need to vote to end debate on legislation and move it forward, a process called cloture. That doesn't mean all 60 will vote for a bill. That just means they will allow the entire Senate to vote for it. Republicans in particular have been using this tactic to ensure that legislation they don't like never comes to the floor for a vote. The most progressive members have been pushing to end the filibuster altogether, but 2 senators, Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, and Kyrsten Sinema, Democrat from Arizona, have said they oppose such a move. However, Manchin is now saying he's open to making it painful to use the filibuster.
Even more importantly, President Biden is signaling he's fine with that approach. Instead of eliminating the filibuster outright, Manchin is proposing a return to talking filibuster, where senators have to hold the floor and talk nonstop. The president has suggested our democracy is not working if something is not done to end the 60 filibuster rule as it currently stands. The president's position may also force Sinema to change her tune. Sinema clings to the bipartisan like a life raft in the ocean, ignoring the fact that the GOP keeps poking holes in it. She has declared that she won't eliminate the filibuster, but perhaps reforming it would give her cover to tweak her position.
Otherwise, the Equality Act and a lot of the Democratic agenda is doomed for failure. If Sinema refuses to go along with the change, she will have the odd distinction of being the sponsor of the Equality Act and the person who single-handedly ensured its failure.
Yeah, the whole filibuster concept is kind of a mess, and the talking filibuster is absolutely ridiculous, but at least you know you really have to be committed to wanting to stand your ground, because you have to sit there and talk and talk and talk so the Senate can't vote.
And can you believe this decision is held in your hands? Sinema has a real decision to make, and hopefully she makes the right one, because this ultimately depends on her.
Yes, and you know, once upon a time I would have supported the Senate 60 filibuster rule. And the idea is that unless 60 in the Senate, it helps get to a supermajority. And I supported that. But you know what we didn't anticipate? We didn't anticipate electing a black president in 2008. We did not anticipate the universal rejection of a black president and 2 terms. And we didn't anticipate a Donald Trump. Yeah. And as a result, the 60-person filibuster rule was obsoleted because it meant that you could never get anything done. It doesn't, it's not supported before. It has to be changed, make it a talking filibuster, and that makes lots of old white men stand there 24 hours a day to support whatever it is that they're filibustering.
Yeah, which can be entertaining. Speaking of, now we're going to queer up entertainment. Drag Race's Sakura shares sex work past in wake of hateful Atlanta shootings. This week, a man went on a rampage at 3 spas in the Atlanta area, killing 8 people. The murderer, who was later identified as Robert Aaron Long, was arrested and admitted to the attacks. He told authorities he had a sex addiction and saw the spas as a temptation that he wanted to eliminate. Now, Drag Race Season 12 star Sakura has weighed in on events and revealed her own heartbreaking story about working in the sex industry. Sakura wrote on Twitter, quote, "I have to get something off my chest, which has been weighing very heavy on me for a long time. With the violent crimes that have been affecting the Asian community as of recently, and the hate crimes that were committed last night against Asian sex workers, I want to come out and say that I was a sex worker, specifically working with massage until my debut on Season 12. Every day I've felt the emotional weight of keeping this secret from the community and my fan base because of fear of being blasted from things like TV appearances and All-Stars, slut-shamed publicly, or losing job opportunities in different countries." End quote. Sakura said she remembered feeling shame during her time on Drag Race when she was asked what she did for a living. Instead of telling the truth, she admitted she lied, and she said she was a full-time queen because she didn't want to get kicked off the hit show. We report this news at Queer News Tonight in our support of those in the Atlanta massacre and the countless stories we've done about the plight of sex industry workers in our LGBTQ community. And Sakura, we all admire your truth.
What do you think, JB?
It always becomes such an issue when it deals with sex workers, and it's a big part of our community, and whether we want to believe it or not, we have to speak about it and speak up about it.
You know, I couldn't help but wonder when Sakura did this Twitter announcement, this statement, how many other people connected with RuPaul's Drag Race through the years were in the exact same situation and didn't have the confidence to do what she did. It's a reality in our community. It's a reality in the American community. And one of the worst things that we can do is to shame it or be silent about it. We want to be mature and adult and healthy in terms of the embracement of what goes on in these communities. And by the way, we have just proved we're not the Christian Broadcasting Network. We're Queer News Tonight.
Well, you know, a lot of my chosen family works in the sex work industry, whether it's porn, dancing, escorting. And, you know, it is work. It's not just, you know, having some fun for money, although it can be. And, you know, sex workers need legal protections. They need resources. No one should be slut shaming. No one should be putting these people down. It's an important job for a lot. It's been around for centuries, millennia. And, you know, we love you, Rock'em Sakura.
We totally do. Next, queering up gaming. RuPaul's Drag Race, the video game, is coming this year. Bring it to the mobile runway. Today, World of Wonder and Leaf Mobile have announced RuPaul's Drag Race, the mobile game, a new game out later this year. The project is a product of new multi-year partnership between World of Wonder, which produces Drag Race, and Eastside Games, a subsidiary of Leaf. World of Wonder co-founder Randy Barbatou and Fenton Bailey said, quote, "The team at World of Wonder is always looking for new ways to bring the Drag Race experience even closer to the fans, and what better way than through a mobile game. We are thrilled to partner with Eastside Games on this charisma and uniqueness, nerve, and talent-filled mobile game experience," end quote. The free-to-win mobile game will allow players to become a part of the show, designing looks for runway challenges, getting Ru mail, and even getting a few Ruism-filled pep talks from Mama Ru herself. The game is expected to launch on iOS and Android this year. Darcy Taylor, Chief Executive Officer of Leaf, said, quote, "The franchise perfectly aligns with our group's values of inclusivity, and we couldn't be prouder to bring the first big-budget LGBTQ mobile game experience to audience everywhere," end quote.
You know, that's the soundbite for me. Congratulations to Leaf, bringing their money where their mouth is in support of the LGBTQ community. Visibility matters, and in gaming, I understand, while it's not something I do, David Hopkins has educated me that gaming is gigantic in the LGBTQ community, so congratulations to Leaf. And also to World of Wonder and the development and the continuing development of the RuPaul brand. As every viewer knows, I was involved in terms of the cruises and many different events related to the Queens for a number of years. And I'm very proud of what I have watched RuPaul's Drag Race and all of its implementations in the positive imaging that it has created, not only in the LGBTQ community, but the broad community as a whole. And this is another great step of that.
Yeah, gaming is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and they do have a lot of LGBT games. I'll probably try this one just because, just like I did Dream Daddy, which is hilarious. All I could think of during that whole story, though, was Spaceballs with the merchandising. It's RuPaul, the video game. And then it's like, take it to the runway, mobile runway. Like, I don't know. There's so many zingers in that article that I just can't get out of my head now. I'm going to have to play the game.
Yeah, totally. And what Al said about David, gaming being so popular in the gay community, most people don't even realize it, but it is a big part of the gay community. There's even the gamers, Gaymers, name for it. So it's so cool that RuPaul is just a world domination now. She's really taken it to so many lanes and so many levels, and why not be on digital now in a gaming app? That is so awesome and cool. I congratulate them all for that.
And again, thank you, Leaf. It's a great step up. Next, we're going to queer up South Florida. The Pride Center at Equality Park launches an interesting Dining with Pride series. Restaurant brand Bolicious announced that they will host a dining series with Pride in Fort Lauderdale on Wednesday, March 24th. The event is launched with its partner, the Pride Center at Equality Park. Bolicious, a national restaurant brand, will be donating 20% of its proceeds from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. to the Pride Center Florida's AIDS Walk team, where they will be matched dollar for dollar by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, AHF. Indoor and outdoor dining is available at Bolicious, and wearing a mask is required when not at your table. Bolicious in our local implementation is here in South Florida on Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale.
I love Bolicious. You know, I'm obviously not necessarily all about health food, but that is one of those places where I can go and enjoy a good meal that I don't feel guilty about, and it feels, oh, I love it. I'm so glad they're doing charity.
And it's such a good partnership, you know. I love when people pull out unique ideas to really help out the community, and that's basically what the Pride Center has done. Bolicious is a great name, the idea is awesome, and I think it's really going to succeed.
And very funny, which is the reason why we report on this this story. As a person who used to be 500 pounds, I am about eating better, and Bolicious is a great place to do it. And how easy is it? You go in, you would be ordering anyway, they donate 20%, and then AHF matches the 20% donation. It's absolutely brilliant. Support Bolicious and the Pride Center, Fort Lauderdale, for the AIDS Walk.
Excellent. And next, we queer up sports. The Florida Panthers to celebrate Pride Day at Saturday's game. One of the teams with the best record in the National Hockey League, the Florida Panthers, will honor members of South Florida's LGBTQ community during Saturday's game against the Nashville Predators. The Panthers will celebrate their annual Pride Day game with face-off set for 2 p.m. Throughout the game, the Panthers will honor Dr. Shelley Slappian-Foot from the Yes Institute as their territory teammate. Slappian-Foot is an active volunteer as a clinical therapist volunteer and is frontline support to many gay and transgender youth during the pandemic, with counseling services provided virtually. In February 2020, the Panthers honored Yes Institute as a community champion and awarded them a $25,000 grant for their work in our community. Florida will also honor Umut Dursun as part of the club's Heroes Among Us program. A former U.S. Marine in Miami who transitioned from female to male after his service, Dursun currently works as the Executive Director of Education for Yes Institute. A soloist from the South Florida Gay Men's Chorus will sing the national anthem, and the team will sell special Pride hats in their team shop at the BB&T Center and online.
They really gayed it up, huh?
They really
that is
gayed it up.
A pack full of gayness in sports, and I absolutely love it. You know, the fact that we are being inclusive and also transitioning into, no pun intended, but transitioning into a realm that usually is not welcoming or perceived to be welcoming to the gay community, or just something that we like in general. You know, the fact that we are actually coming together shows that there's not just one particular type of gay or identity, that we are individuals that play sport and enjoy sports as well.
I love hockey. I have been to the Stanley Cup twice. Would it be unpopular for me to say the words Tampa Bay Lightning? That is my team. From Tampa Bay. Forgive me, Florida Panthers, but the Lightning are the national champions. Great on the Panthers for doing this. And JB, I completely agree with you. One of the great things about this story, and the reason why we draw attention to it, is in sports, it's one of the last areas where the LGBTQ community needs the greatest push of embracement. Football, basketball, baseball, hockey. In the United States. And the more that professional sports teams embrace and provide symbolism of support for the LGBTQ community, it trickles down into college, high school, and intramural programs everywhere. So bravo, Florida Panthers.
And it's funny you mention that, because the NHL for the past couple of years has been promoting something they call Hockey is for Everyone, which intentionally promotes LGBTQ awareness and support for players and fans. Every single NHL team has a Pride Night once a year. They all have community initiatives to participate in their local prides. Hockey is actually becoming one of the most gay-friendly sports, even though it's the butchest and most masculine, and I think that's absolutely amazing.
All right, JB, we're going to talk about trans rights.
Yeah, that actually is amazing. Next up is Queer Up Trans Rights. This 16-year-old trans student just made history by testifying in favor of the Equality Act. After Stella Keating testified in favor of Equality Act on Wednesday, the trans student still had to finish school for the day. Quote, "I'm making history," she told her high school fellow students. After she testified, she said she was going to her world history class. Stella, a 16-year-old sophomore at Temuka, Washington, was one of the 3 people to address the Senate Judiciary Committee regarding the landmark civil rights legislation, which passed the U.S. House of Representatives for the 2nd time in February. Her speech marks the first time the Equality Act, which would guarantee comprehensive protections in areas like housing, education, healthcare, has received a hearing in the upper house of Congress since it was first introduced in 1974. As the lone student among the group of panelists, she told the committee that the bill has constantly been on her mind as she looks for colleges. She said that the Senate committee, quote, "All I can think about is this. Less than half of the states in our country provide equal protection for me under the law." She told lawmakers, quote, "What happens if I want to attend a college in a state that doesn't protect me? Right now, I could be denied medical care or be evicted for simply being transgender in many states. How is that even right? How is that even American?" End quote.
Wow, really wow. First off, Stacey, do you hit the bullseye? This is history. For 42 years, we've been trying to get the Equality Act passed. This is the first hearing in 42 years of consistent chasing and embracement of the Equality Act. Second, a 16-year-old student is speaking up and testifying in front of the Judiciary Committee. I can't imagine the pressure of that. And it is a 16-year-old trans student. So Stella Keating, let's make sure we continue to repeat that historic name, Stella Keating. Congratulations for representing all of us, because in that hearing, you represented all of the LGBTQ community in this historic moment. And then I loved that you went to your world history class right after it.
So just to nerd out a minute, earlier this week we reported that Captain America is going to be doing a whole tour of American heroes, and the first one they're meeting is gay. Stella, you could be a Captain America too. You are amazing. I'm so happy to live in a world where you live. Everyone should be a hero like you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's truly uplifting to see that our young individuals, rather than hiding and feeling ashamed in the closet, there are some of them that have the courage and tenacity and confidence to speak out. I wish we could all be as courageous as Stella was, to be able to speak on issues that will change the world. If they are enacted, is a great accomplishment, and just being able to put yourself out there and speak up on it is an accomplishment in itself.
Absolutely. Let's say it one more time. Stella Keating, you've made our entire community proud.
Yeah.
Well, that is our queer headlines for today. Let's catch up now on the LGBTQ news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment we call Quarantine Quickies. Queer News Tonight has been LGBTQ America's most important news source on the pandemic, as we have reported in the LGBTQ community on coronavirus on every single news broadcast since January 6, 2020. Tonight, we report on the devastating effect that coronavirus continues to have on the American and worldwide LGBTQ community in total cases and deaths. We also try to provide some hope of the new light at the end of this long tunnel. As of tonight, we report that more than 2,109,000 LGBTQ Americans have contracted COVID-19, and more than 38,366 LGBTQ Americans have died from coronavirus. But the light of the end of the tunnel is coming. As of today, we report that more than 109,081,000 vaccine doses have been administered in the United States.
That is our COVID-19 news for tonight. Next, we report that Happening Out Television Network is passionate about our support of the LGBTQ community. An example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's totally live. We encourage you to tune in. Our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral, is my queer church. Watch this.
I'm Kishai Martin, board member of Unity Coalition, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible. Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our host and guests stay at this LGBTQ ally partner. We encourage you to stay here when visiting South Florida.
Well, up next, Queer News Tonight is proud to host our Thursday night business professional segment we are calling NetWERQ with a Q, where we will highlight and network with, live, by the way, with LGBTQ business leaders, individuals, and organizations. Tonight's segment features Cason Crane, the founder and CEO, Chief Exploration Officer, love that title, of Explore Cold Brew.
His concept to create a portable, highly concentrated cold brew went from idea to sold out in less than 5 months since the company's founding in May 2020. He aims to fuel the world through both their specialty coffee super concentrate, as well as their partnership with charity, Water, Increasing Life, saving access to clean water around the world. His interest in making coffee more accessible stems from his background as an adventurer, explorer, and entrepreneur.
He has traveled to over 100 countries on all 7 continents, and he was the first openly LGBT and 5th youngest person to climb Mount Everest and the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each continent. He achieved this feat while raising $135,000 for the Trevor Project, a suicide prevention and crisis intervention service for LGBTQ youth.
Here to tell us more, let's please welcome founder and Chief Exploration Officer Cason Crane of Explore Cold Brew to NetWERQ here on Queer News Tonight. Cason, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks, Al. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very excited to meet you. First off, if there's any question that you are a gay man, to have in bio that you're the 5th youngest guy, the focus of gay in terms of age means, oh yeah, you're definitely a gay guy that has climbed Mount Everest.
Well, honestly, I was just very lucky to have the opportunity. There's not a ton of openly LGBT climbers, but there is a small community, and I was just very, very lucky to get the chance to climb it. It was a dream come true.
Yeah, I want to talk a little about that. The 7 summits you've conquered on all of the continents on this planet, the highest peaks. Of course, Mount Everest is the name of the 7. What was your experience like in doing that? First off, I'm curious, were you afraid even with your vast experience, were you afraid in the approach to Everest?
You know, of all of the 7 summits, Everest was probably the least consistently scary. I think there are moments on Everest, as with any climb, where you're nervous. Certainly going through the Khumbu Icefall, which is basically a frozen waterfall of ice that's constantly moving, albeit gradually, but moving. So there's avalanches, the ice can collapse. That certainly was scary. But Everest is such a special peak. I mean, being the highest mountain in the world, it's the sort of thing that I dreamed about as a kid. I would say that some of the other peaks where they're maybe a little bit more obscure, a little bit more remote, that's where it gets a little nerve-wracking. And as someone who's actually afraid of heights, it can get particularly scary when it's exposed.
You know, Cason, at Queer News Tonight, we constantly bring individuals to our viewers' attention that blaze new ground and basically create acceptance to go, what's the big deal? LGBTQ has now done it, and that's what you represent in this field. But as you were doing this through the 7 summits all over the world, and Everest, and Mount McKinley in Alaska, of course, and other places, did you ever feel like you were carrying a banner or a badge or a sash, a drag queen sash in this experience in terms of climbing the most important mountains on this planet?
I mean, Al, you know, I was literally carrying more than that. I was carrying a rainbow buff that I would wear. I was carrying a rainbow flag, 2 rainbow flags actually with me, just in case something happened to one. I was very literally carrying the flag. I would have the flag, carabiner to the outside of my tent. The mission was obviously a personal journey, but a huge part of it and a huge part of my motivation was increasing that awareness. And you mentioned earlier in your broadcast about the importance of representation, and that has been a huge goal and a big motivator for me to increase the representation through not just mountaineering, but also in the endurance sports world. I compete in triathlon and ultramarathons as well. And then business too. I mean, as you all know, like we're combating a lack of representation on a lot of fronts, and I think we're seeing amazing acceptance and change very quickly, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm curious, as you're approaching this challenge and you're carrying that mantle for all of us, really, because that's what you were doing, not only for the American LGBTQ community, but the LGBTQ community all over the world. As you're carrying that mantle, did you ever feel like, well, I might not make it? I could fail. Did you ever feel that at any point?
Absolutely. So definitely, I climbed Denali, also known as McKinley, twice, actually. The first time I did not reach the summit. I was stuck in a blizzard at high camp for a week, which was, I had to, as a very goal-oriented person, as most mountaineers are, that can be a tough moment. I mean, you often hear about stories of people who climb Everest and they don't know whether to turn around, and sometimes they die as a result. And so my team actually was in that situation on Denali. We turned around, made the right choice. But after that, I really had to grapple. I had to adjust my expectation, my definition of success. Yeah. It had been to reach the summit of all of the 7 summits, which I did ultimately do. But in that moment, I had to redefine success for me to be doing my best, pursuing this journey to the best of my ability. So I think one of the great lessons of mountaineering and endurance sports in general is that you have to roll with the punches. You have to constantly be open to redefining that definition of success. And the one other thing I'd say is it's not just, I always had a team. And I think, you mentioned carrying this in a way, like carrying this badge or almost as a burden. It really wasn't. I was so happy to do it. And I had so much love and support, both from my climbing partners, the Sherpas I climbed Everest with, my family, my friends. And I just want to recognize, like, I was so lucky to have that. And I raised money for the Trevor Project because there are so many LGBTQ plus youth out there who don't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very motivated in that explanation because, as we talked about in our little pre-interview, I'm going to redefine success based on what you just said, because as I told you, at McKinley, at Denali, Mount Cook in New Zealand, Blanc in France, I have also been on those mountains, but I landed on a helicopter. It's just the definition of how your success is measured. So I'm going to take that moment and say, oh, wait, I was very successful because I flew up on the helicopter.
See, Al, I think when we start having out travel trips, we also have to have Cason as a guide on some of them. I think that'd be pretty amazing.
Absolutely. We have a travel news network, Cason, is what we're talking about. I want to ask you about the accomplishment. Okay, so now you've done it. Everest as the lead. Of course, that's the lead story, but the 7 summits. What becomes next for you? Lots of people are going to hear this and go, gosh, this representative of our LGBTQ community has accomplished it. His life is done. He's finished it. What becomes
I hope
next?
not.
Right, exactly. What becomes next for you? Somebody at this level of accomplishment, what becomes the challenge next for you?
So for me, the next step was to find a new Everest, a new challenge that I could dedicate myself to. And that's been the foundation and the process and journey of growing my company, Explore Cold Brew, which, as you mentioned earlier, it's a cold brew concentrate. It's super concentrated. We have a portable bottle, and we also have a bottle that's great for your fridge and your kitchen. And it's a project that's both a personal passion of mine in that we have 4 caffeine levels. And as someone who has been more sensitive to caffeine and whose body is more sensitive to caffeine, I felt very much like that wasn't an option that was available to me. So we have 4 caffeine levels, and also importantly, every box and bottle sold funds clean water projects around the world. And certainly as someone, who's been very lucky, as you have, Al, to travel all over the world, I mean, we see firsthand the impact of climate change and the impact that the fact that we need to have start acting yesterday. Like, we really need to quickly take action. And so I want Explore to be doing our part in being a sustainable coffee product, a sustainable company, and also to work with the communities in which we grow our coffee to provide sustainable development opportunities, especially through clean water.
Cason, let's zero right in on that. You start Explore Cold Brew with this intent of providing a product that is quite unique from your perspective, and also sustainable and giving back. All 3 desirable business decisions for Explore Cold Brew. So with all of those good decisions that clearly you put into effect for Explore Cold Brew, you made the decision to launch this in May 2020. Let's go back to May 2020. I wonder what was going on. And I know there's something right at the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite remember what it was. What made you do that in May 2020? Most people
Al,
were still under their beds.
In fact, I was in bed in May 2020, unable to sleep because I was at home, stuck in my apartment. Not stuck. I mean, I was quarantined in my apartment, and all of that energy, all of that, my passion for the outdoors and for exercise, I needed somewhere to channel it. And it wasn't helped by the fact that my cold brew habit was keeping me up till 4 a.m. every night. And so very literally, it was the genesis for the idea behind Explore. And I immediately jumped into kind of channeling that energy that brought me to the summit of Everest and that has carried me through dozens of ultra marathons around the world. I channeled that into building this product very quickly, bringing it to market. And we actually, so we launched at the end, we launched our product out to the world at the end of October. And I think that's pretty much, you can't really go much faster than that in terms of developing a premium product. And honestly, the pandemic, as you mentioned earlier, has been an almost indescribable tragedy for our country and for the world. But I think I feel very lucky and appreciative of the ways that I've been able to find silver linings from it. One of those silver linings is this.
There's the interesting part of this story about Explore Cold Brew, and you, Cason, is I think it's very motivational. You combine your business interest in terms of developing cold brew and your challenge, representation, your badge of honor for our community of Everest and the 7 summits all over the planet. They're really the same thing. It's taking on the challenge and not giving up. And that's really the story here, isn't it? In terms of what you've done in the climbing and what you've done in your business development of cold brew in the worst economic catastrophe of our lifetime, of a century. That's, it seems to me, the story here.
Starting a small business is no easy challenge, that is for sure. I definitely feel on a daily basis that it's a greater challenge than Everest, for sure.
Wow.
And no, I mean, look, I'm so lucky. I feel so grateful every day for the support, again, from family and friends that I've been able to count on, since I came out at age 14 as a freshman in high school. I've been able to count on this incredibly supportive group of people. And, I think about, I'm grateful as well that in the last year, we've seen greater awareness on racial issues, greater awareness of issues affecting our trans community. And I think one thing that I wish would get, unfortunately, there's these tragic massacres like the one yesterday that are just devastating to have, or 2 days ago, this week, to have such a devastating tragedy affecting the Asian community. But I think it's sometimes suicide gets forgotten or not talked about as much. The reality is suicide is still a massive, massive issue in our community, trans community especially. And I think, as we, as a community, reach out and support one another, especially as this pandemic winds down, I just want to remind everyone to be that person, like reach out, like just because someone seems okay doesn't mean that they necessarily are. And it can be very hard in this virtual world where you're just seeing people on Zoom to actually get to what they're truly feeling. So it's just, I just want to make sure that I say that, because it's something that is a really, really pressing and tragic problem for our community.
I have to bring attention back. I know Cason doesn't. He said all of that and doesn't add that he puts his efforts where his mouth is. You raised through this process, you raised $135,000 for the Trevor Project, whose number one goal is to focus on LGBTQ youth suicide prevention. Exactly what you just talked about. So your efforts all over the world, including Everest, are designed to bring attention to and to support the efforts of standing up, especially for the T in LGBTQ. So you put your efforts where your mouth is.
And I feel very privileged. Like, to me, it's not even really a choice. It's a necessity. Like I'm so aware and cognizant of the advantages that I had growing up that other people don't and didn't have. And so for me, whether it's, giving back to help support the communities through our water projects with Explore Cold Brew, or whether it's supporting the Trevor Project, that's just something I view as it's not a nice to have, or it's not it's a must have. It's part of the way I view, how I can give back in the world and take the opportunity I have and pay it forward.
Yeah. Cason, tell us how we get Explore Cold Brew.
Yes.
How do we contact you? Where do we find you on Grindr?
That would be a unique distribution channel. Let me tell my investors about that. You can find us on at explorecoldbrew.com. So we're actually exclusively online right now. We actually just launched on Amazon as well. So you can get us Amazon Prime or directly from our website at explorecoldbrew.com. As I mentioned, there's 4 caffeine levels. So whether you want to pick your poison, or if you feel like a mix of caffeine levels will fit your lifestyle, we are trying to be your specialty coffee shop cold brew at home. So give us a try.
Excellent. So to the website, your social media platforms, it's all there for you, and encourage you to go and look. One last question, Cason. I heard, or I believe I read someplace, that in your Everest climb, you just in happenstance were partnered either in terms of a partner or a camping partner with somebody that was LGBTQ. Is that true?
It is true. What were the odds? It was totally random. My tent mate on Everest was another gay guy, which was just remarkable. And it made me, to me, it reinforced, my tent mate was not on a mission to increase representation. He was on a personal journey, which, to be clear, I 100% respect. It was not at all an issue. It's just a different sort of journey than mine. But he, it was just incredible. And it reinforced that there is a great, thriving, vibrant LGBTQ plus community in the outdoors community, in the athletic community. And, there's many more people like him out there. And I just love that. And I hope that all of the young folks, actually folks of any age that are watching this, will, be inspired to go out and like you, Al, maybe go to Mount Blanc one way or another, or maybe, go out and just go for a run, whatever it is, experience nature, explore the outdoors, and don't feel afraid. There's I heard a couple weeks ago, Laverne Cox, maybe this was a couple months ago now, Laverne Cox was attacked while going for a hike.
Yes.
And so we still live in a world where you can be targeted for being LGBTQ plus in the outdoors. So find a friend, but go out and explore and enjoy it with a buddy.
Yeah, Cason, I am just one of thousands that are are just inspired by your story, not only your story of your climbs all over the planet, but also the development in the middle of pandemic of Explorer Cold Brew. I weighed 500 pounds and have lost 300 pounds. And your story is an inspiration to me to continue on, obviously much older than you, but it's an inspiration story that it's going to land on the ears of many people in the LGBTQ community to never give up. And that's what you're doing in developing this brand at Explorer Cold Brew. That's what you're doing in terms of your climbs all over the world. And that's what you're doing in supporting the Trevor Project. In all different ways, we can see how this is integrating in your life and in your world. And we thank you for that. And we're thrilled that you've been with us here tonight at Queer News Tonight.
Well, the feeling is mutual, Al, and honestly, that's an inspiring journey as well. When you mentioned that earlier, I was blown away, and it reminded me of, we all have our own personal Everests, and I think it's important to recognize and appreciate that those journeys are they can be our Everest. That doesn't mean that somebody else has to recognize them as such, but thank you for sharing that, and I wish you luck. And if you ever want to go for a hike or go climb a mountain with me, I will 100% join you.
I'm going to take you up on that. You've made an offer that is going to be fulfilled. Cason Crane, a pleasure meeting you. And again, thank you so much. Congratulations to you of what you represent in our LGBTQ community, and especially what you're doing for young people connected in the trans community and the Trevor Project and more. Thank you for being with us tonight at Queer News Tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Al.
And that is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news. We are the only LGBTQ television live video news in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of anchors David Hopkins and JB Menz, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night.
Good night.